Hey, it's Aaron, and this is my continuation of the thread started by the vinyl narrative of 5 albums I would never get rid of. And thanks to my friend Cameron for showing me this, and he doesn't have a YouTube channel really, but he just watches YouTube. And also shout out in some of the videos I was watching, Vinyl Richie for having the awesomest name. That was hilarious when I saw that. Anyways, my 5 albums I would never get rid of. My first is Lou Reed Transformer. I love the Velvet Underground. I love Lou Reed. A lot of great albums. But this one holds a special place for me for Perfect Day. The first time I heard Perfect Day was the Trainspotting soundtrack. And I loved the song. It was just so melancholy. And then later on in my life, I was on a train trip through Amsterdam. And the song came on over the radio. I hadn't heard it at that point for a couple years, and it just fit the mood of everything so perfectly. And ever since then, I had to get this album. Love that. Of course, it has other great hits on here too, Walking the Wild Side and Satellite of Love, but the whole album's great in general. But yeah, Perfect Day is just one of those magical songs for me, so I would never get rid of Lou Reed Transformer. All right, number 2 on my list, Travis, The Boy with No Name. Now, I first got introduced to Travis when I was traveling through the UK. They're a Scottish band. I first heard The Man Who, loved that album, and followed them throughout. But one of the things, a couple reasons this album's really sentimental to me. First of all, the photographer, he's become one of my favorite photographers, Stefan Ruiz. He does large format film photography, which is really hard to do, and just captures these amazing scenes, with the band in them. Really detailed photography because of the large format. And these albums and their gatefolds and everything just looked amazing. But I love the band too, and I have more history with this album. So I went to see them with my wife at the time in LA, who was pregnant with my oldest daughter, who is now 18 years old and just started her first semester at UC Berkeley. Super proud of her. Good job, Kinsey. Anyways, when I went with my wife to see the show, met the band, it was just a great experience. And to this day, my oldest daughter and I still listen to this record. So whatever music kind of transported through the pregnancy stuck with her. And we both love this album and listen to it together. So it's very sentimental for me. Never get rid of Travis, The Boy with No Name. Number 3 on my list, Jawbreaker 24-Hour Revenge Therapy. Now, I love all Jawbreaker stuff, but this was the first album that really hit home for me. It kind of had an romanticized view of the music coming out of the Bay Area at the time. There was a lot of activity in San Francisco and Oakland and Berkeley. And this really artistically captures it well. And it is engineered by one of my favorite, Steve Albini, rest in peace. He brought the rawness, or captured the rawness to this album in the best possible way, along with the really wonderful lyrics in this and just the high energy. This album I will never sell. And Steve Albini, by the way, originally from Missoula, Montana. Montana's where I live now. All right, 4th on my list, The Owls, first album. Now this one kind of surprised me. I was going through my records and then I came across it and just immediately was like, yeah, I'd never get rid of that album. And I don't think it sell for too much, but it's also another Steve Albini engineered album. And the history behind this band is they were originally Cap'n Jazz, who disbanded. Cap'n Jazz were one of my favorite bands growing up, and just kind of chaotic fun. Anyways, the Kinsella brothers split up to form many different bands, most famously probably Joan of Arc or American Football, and then they reunited. The Cap'n Jazz original lineup reunited, calling themselves the Owls, and put out this album, which really surprised me. I just really enjoy it. I put it on when I'm in a weird mood, or just it's fun. And yeah, it's an album that I will never get rid of. All right, number 5 on my list, Kent B-Sides. So Kent were a Swedish band that tried to break it in the US in the 2000s. They did release a couple English albums, but gave up after that, and the rest of their albums were in Swedish. And the English albums they did put out, they also put out in Swedish. But this came out around the time when they were trying to break into the US. This is all in Swedish, but I did have my friend Cameron, who introduced me to this thread, gave me a burned CD of tracks back in the day that were in English, like a dozen tracks on here I did hear in English originally. But when they re-released this, or released it on vinyl for the first time, it was all in Swedish. But it's still very enjoyable to me, even though I don't understand it mostly. The language is kind of close, so I remember the English, and it's just a great album. And I love the artwork again. Another one of my favorite album photographers, Swedish photographer Jonas Linnell. Also, rest in peace. He passed away a few years ago. I would love to do a video about him. He did most of Kent's covers. All the artwork was super cool. And packaging, I just love. So yeah, this was tough, you know. The English versions of the album hold up, but this is a 4-disc, and it's just awesome. I love it. So this is the last on my list. But I do want to give props to this album, Absinthe. It's a 10-inch though, so I didn't figure it would count as a full album. It's Tucson hardcore, ex-members of Groundwork. I grew up in Phoenix, and at the time they were around. I saw a couple shows of theirs, and they were great. It's still an album I throw on at least once a month. And I don't know how rare it is to find these days. The band itself, to find information on, is pretty rare. But they were great, and I guess not the best of memories, but the last show I was going to see of them, we were driving down to Tucson and got in a bad car accident. Didn't make the show, but somehow the memory stuck all those years ago, and it just, even though it wasn't the best memory, it was a big memory in my life. So this is my shout out, but that's it. I hope to see more threads coming. I hope it keeps going, and I look forward to seeing your videos. Thanks for watching. All right, number 2 on my list. Travis, sit down. This guy thinks it's cool to bark at things when I'm trying to do videos. Not cool, Paul. You're so good, boy.